Hello, and welcome to the Classic Land Cruisers podcast. I'm Dan, your host. You can find me on Instagram at FJ40_UMA_Smurf or on I Hate Mud at Mountain Biker. You can find the podcast on Instagram by searching Classic Land Cruisers. Remember to go to reefmonkey.com to get your Classic Land Cruiser podcast merch. Bring your adventure home with inlowgear.com, your source for custom Land Cruiser apparel and merchandise, where adventure becomes art, designed for the road. This episode was brought to you in part by Redline Land Cruisers, Save Your F, by Manafree, your one-stop shop for Land Cruiser parts and service, by Valley Hybrids and Terrain Tamer North America.
Okay, welcome to this episode of the Classic Land Cruisers podcast. With me today is Alex
Poulos, you're going to get it.
Poulos. With living in southern Arizona, there's a lot of Hispanic influence everywhere, and so I'm always like, when I see something, I always kind of say it in
It's very Greek, and it's always butchered. Don't feel bad.
So Carlos Baca on Instagram a while ago, I said, "Hey, who would you guys want to hear on the podcast?" And he was like, "You got to have Hemi Alex." And so he's the one who nominated you, so you can thank him for it. So
I'm gonna chastise him later. Don't feel bad.
So why don't you go ahead and introduce yourself a little bit more and how you got into classic Land Cruisers?
My name's Alex Poulos, originally from Houston, Texas. I can remember the first interaction I ever had with a Land Cruiser was probably like 1994 at my uncle's ranch in the area I currently live in. Had a Freeborn Red FJ62. It was a farm truck. And I just remember it leaving a really weird imprint in my mind because it didn't look like everything else. And lost track of the truck down the line. And recently, last year, I asked him what happened to it, and it went out in a spectacular fashion. He was towing way more than he should have with it and went over some railroad tracks with the trailer, overloaded, and jackknifed it and flipped the truck, and he walked away. So that came to me way far after I bought my first truck, but it only segmented and put in my mind why I thought it was the right idea. So I started with a love of Toyotas from like, I would say 2014. No, earlier than that. I had a Tacoma. It was the greatest thing on earth, and it was logical and took me everywhere I need for work, and it just started boring me. Little 2.7 for Tacoma, and browsing Craigslist when Craigslist was still a thing, I found the 60 that I currently have in my town. Rushed over there with cash, and first guy couldn't make it till payday, so I bought it. Silencing, didn't really know much about them. I was familiar with old cars, but
Yeah.
probably not a good idea. But coincidentally, I ended up making long-term friends with the owner, and we're still friends. We still trade parts, and he lives up in North Carolina, and he's really thoroughly enjoyed the finding out that he sold the truck to the right person, because everything that he would have done, I did, and then more. And then about the first time he found me on Instagram was I was in Big Bend with the truck, and he was like, "That's literally my truck. I forgot about you." And then there you are doing what I wanted to do. So it worked really well. Started about 2015, and the last decade of my life has been fantastic. I've met so many really cool people and gone everywhere. I've wheeled the truck 8 of the last 10 years, Colorado or Big Bend or somewhere it's gone, and it's been one of the best life choices I've ever made, as much as buying an old vehicle could be.
Yeah. So what all have you done to your 60 series?
My 60 was the worst case scenario of everything, and I've done everything on it. The only thing that has not been touched on that is the internal of the motor. Um, I had a good local support group here in Houston when I lived down in Houston, and guys like Mark Daniil, Brian Badenfield, Steve Cooper, all helped me. Brian Badenfield has a lovely garage that's made all over the internet, and he helped me do my first lift on it. Um, Rusty trucks, it was not a good idea, but it worked. So I lifted it first because the suspension, all the leaves were broken. It was a Missouri truck. The truck was actually a National Geographic film vehicle, and I found that out after the fact, and it was completely stock up until I bought it.
That is so
And
cool.
cleaning the center console out, I found a business card for National Geographic, and somewhere on Facebook, I have the chat of where I found the guy and told me, man, that thing's been everywhere. And I bought it with like 280,000 miles on it, and I'm almost at 380 right now. And the truck has never let me down. To align with your shirt, single best thing that I've done to the truck is the 5-speed and new split case by George. 80,000 miles on it, no issues. Um, and really, the truck is surprisingly boring and simple. Um, I get asked a lot of questions. How did you do this? People reference my old forum posts, and honestly, it's all on FSM. So
Yeah.
everybody who asked me, "What is this question?" All I did was read the service manual. I was a little bit mechanically inclined, but I followed directions. And really, uh, it was more about a theme than it was just a build. Like
Yeah.
I got the original ARB bumper first, and it was bent and it's twisted, fit the rest of the truck, and then I found a Kmart. I got very lucky for the Kmart rear bumper, and then I found ARB side steps, and then I found the grab handle, and I found the inclinometer, and all this other stuff. And I was just always going to build like a rest of world goofy conflict zone truck. And I've perpetually beat the truck every year. It's never left me. I've done things that an unlocked truck shouldn't with a little bit of pedal, and it's it's never disappointed me. The carburetor has gone from sea level to 15,000 feet almost, and never given me a problem, never let me down. And it's just really been maintenance. I mean, I've learned what not to do. I've blown a lot of intake manifold and exhaust gaskets out of it. Um, I broke the motor mount and dented the hood, and that was a good call to George. And George fixed me up in the middle of Colorado. Um, it's surprisingly boring, but honestly, leaving stuff alone has been the best saving grace for having a functional truck. Just
Yeah.
leaving it as it was. Like I've had the truck pretty much untouched for like 8 years. I have not done anything major, just maintenance and like I've done stuff, but nothing's ever broken. It's tried to, but I've always made it home.
Yeah. Yeah.
And
George was kind of giving me. I'm gonna coin Ben Draper's or yeah Ben Draper from Project Wrong Way. I'm gonna coin his terminology. George was giving me wizardly advice because shortly after my motor went out in my 40, uh, somebody was selling a new motor and well a good working tuned motor and uh, a 5-speed transmission, an H55, and a transfer case. And I'm like, ooh, I could put a 5-speed in it finally, and I can do this. And George was like, and not just George, but like Owner and Nolan and all the grand wizards. Again, coining Ben Draper. He
Ben's use of Grand Wizard was questioned in the past. I just want to let you know that.
uh,
Definitely not shaking my head over here. Go ahead.
but they were all like, you know what? It's a great upgrade to do, but it does take a lot of fabrication, a lot of time, a lot of money, uh, and it's probably more than you want to do. Um, and then at the same time, somebody else was saying, I have a 2F motor. Actually, I think it's actually a 3F. The guy thought it was a 2F, but it was I think it was a 3F out of a 60 series. And he's like, but the motor locked up. I think I've spun a bearing in it, but the 4-speed transmission is still good. The transfer case is still good. And I was kind of talking to him for a little bit, and then I'm like, well, what do you want for the 4-speed and the transfer case? And he's finally just like, if you want it, you can have it. Take the engine and the transmission over to Higgy's off road.
Mm-hmm.
And then I was telling that to George, and he's like, yeah, Higgy's is Scott's a good guy, so you'll have no problem there. And so, yeah, I might be upgrading to a 4-speed right now, this summer, or I might be upgrading to a 4-speed in November and doing a whole re-gear process. I go from 311s to 370s, 4-speed, and Nolan, he's like, with a 4-speed and 370s, you'll get every bit of interstate performance out of that 40 that you'll ever want. You don't need to go to a 5-speed. So that's 98% sure that's what I'm going to be doing with my Land Cruiser soon, is going to the 4-speed and a mechanical transfer case, not a vacuum actuated transfer case. So
Way simpler. Way simpler.
yeah,
I've driven a 40 with 370s that a friend had down here, and it was surprisingly good. A little aerodynamically challenged for Texas highway speeds. Really needed the 410s to keep it in the right momentum and gear. But I mean, we're 75, 80 miles an hour. Like, if my 60 didn't comfortably cruise at 75, I'd be in big trouble. And it does that reluctantly, but never let me down. So I
yeah,
think you'll be really happy with that. You'll have everything you need and as fast as you want to go.
yeah. And the whole thing with Arizona traffic is the right lane is minimum speed limit. The the second to the right lane is between 5 to 10 miles an hour over. The left lane is 10 to 15 over, and if there's 4 lanes, it's 15
It's
to 30
Autobahn.
over. um, but yeah, with my 3-speed, I'd be going to work and I'd just be like wide open, 60 miles an hour, and just screaming, and like,
I feel the limiting the limiting factor on that, I don't feel is the 1-to-1 third gear or the fourth gear in a 4-speed. It's really that transfer case. Um,
yeah,
what, I mean, that transfer case, to quote Brian Battenfield, one of my friends, the transfer case in that truck sounds like an exploding hardware store. And and you don't know what noise is coming from where, and it works. And I had a buddy who, year before last, he drove his 40 to Colorado with a base F motor and a 3-speed, and he made it. It took a while, and he made it. And then the following year, um, we really pushed it, and he induced a rod knock sometime at Roundup last year. So over the course of a few months, we put another spare F motor, because spare F motors grow on trees. So I had one in the garage, donated by another friend because I didn't want to throw it away. And we put a new F motor in his truck, and put a good working 3-speed in it that was less crunchy, and then did a midnight clutch swap on the garage floor and got it ready. And then the next year, when we went to solid axle last year, we trailered it with my 200, and it was a much better drive, and he had a much better time overall.
yeah. I see. I was originally this summer. I was supposed to go to Australia, and me and my dad were gonna borrow a 40 series from a listener down there, and we were gonna do long drive for drought, and it was gonna be epic, and it was gonna be fantastic. But we soon realized that it was going to cost us at least $10,000 with
Easily.
flights over there, uh, gas, food, lodging, all this other stuff. And my dad was doing some he was working with the Red Cross, and they had him deployed to Poland, and so he and I would like video talk once a week when times would allow it. And I was just like trying to break it to him, like, I don't think I'm going to have enough money to do Australia. And I'm like, I told him, I said, I don't think we're going to be able to do Australia. I just don't think it's going to work out. I think logistically it's going to be too much money. And he's like, yeah, I was kind of thinking that same thing. And then no sooner did I say that than Casey Archer texted me, and he's like, hey, we want the podcast here for the 10th anniversary of Solid Axle Summit. We would like you to be a sponsor of it. I'm gonna make sure that there's plenty of interviews for you to do while you're here.
Fantastic.
And I'm like, you know what? That is an awesome idea. And so I immediately got back on the phone with my dad, and I'm like, hey, how would you feel about doing Colorado instead of Australia? And told him about Solid Axle Summit, and he's like, well, what's the website? I'm like, well, there's not really a website. It's on I Hate Mud, but
It's a highly contested thread right now.
and so he's like, well, let me do some research into it. And ever since then, he has just been like super excited to go to Colorado. And I was just like, you know what? Let's drive my 40 there. Let's go the Iron Butt route and drive my 40 there. My dad's like, yeah, I don't think that would be a smart decision to drive your 40 from Tucson to Ouray. And I'm like, it can make it. My Land Cruiser is strong now. It can make it. And he's like,
It's not that it's a smart decision. It's just the decision you have to make.
And he's like, we really need to rent a truck to tow it there. I'm like, I don't want to rent a truck, and going through Enterprise is going to cost like $700 to rent a truck, and U-Haul was a lot cheaper to rent a truck and a trailer to tow it there. And I was like, well, the problem with U-Haul is it's a single cab truck. And my dad's like, you know, I want to have some memories with your son also. I know it's his senior year, but when we went on the side-by-side excursion, I really had fun with your son, so I want your son there. And so trying to figure out how I was going to get me, my dad, and my son in a single cab pickup, and we're all fairly tall, and I'm just like, and then I was going on a shakedown run, and I started getting rod knock, or bearing knock, I should say. And that's why I got a new motor at Higgy's Off-Road, and came time to, and I'm like, you know what? I'm still going to need to buy a truck to tow. We still need a truck to tow my Land Cruiser to Ouray. And so I'm like, you know what? Now's the time to buy a tow truck. Or not a tow truck, but now I'm sitting in a 2010 Tundra with a 5.7 V8, which is the million-mile motor. And I'm like, all right, I've got one of the problems sorted out. And my dad's like, well, what about your motor? I'm like, well, I'm getting that one sorted out right now. So
That's easier to fix. And you made a really good choice with the 5.7 truck. In I guess 23, I bought a 2011 200 series for my wife. I say air quotes for my wife.
yeah,
Bought it with 267,000. It was at the perfect end of our budget. Didn't pay that much for it. Really surprisingly close to what used 100 series were going for at the time. And I've literally put 120,000 miles on the truck in 3 years.
nice.
It has been absolutely everywhere. And I've wheeled it a little bit. It's towed several cars cross country, no issues. And truly, I did a little bit of homework, and I wasn't sold on the 250 series, and I'm still not. I think they're good looking, but not for me. But I have zero doubt about the 5.7. So you made a really
Yeah.
good long-term choice with that. flawless engines, small little problems here and there, but like my truck's tired. My truck today is at 371,000 miles, and the fit and finish and the wear of the 200 has been immaculate. It looks brand new still. Drives brand new. Um, I have zero regrets about it. I would rather have three cheap 200 series than one new 250. And that's
Yeah.
because I'm stubborn and I have disorders. I can't help that.
And
But
so a couple of weeks ago, I was actually my daughter plays roller hockey. I mean, she followed after both of her siblings. They both played hockey. Uh, my two older kids played ice and roller hockey, and my youngest daughter plays roller hockey. And we were having to go to a tournament. And sure enough, I built up the guts to flat tow my 40 up to Higgy's off road, and this truck, yeah, I know, guys, stop yelling at me. I know what you're doing right now. You're yelling at the speakers or whatever screen, and you're saying, "Hey, this is a classic Land Cruiser. Why are you talking about a modern truck?" I'm gonna get there, okay? But I flat towed it my 40 up to Higgy's off road, and this truck did not even feel it back there. I'm like, this is nice.
it's a
And
way overbuilt truck.
yeah, um, so, but yeah, and hopefully soon at some point, Scotty gets my truck into his shop. And while I was up there, they were unboxing something that they had just gotten for a different rig that was up there, and it had a sticker in it. I'm like, hey, if you guys are all excited about stickers, here you go. And so I gave them some stickers of the podcast. I'm like, hey, if it helps grease the wheels a little bit, I'm all here. Here's some extra stickers. Here's some stickers from the relic run that I did a couple weeks ago, and I gave him and his guys a whole bunch of stickers. So, and
you know,
I'm a sucker for stickers anyway too. So
I have a sticker box that kind of follows me around the house of stuff that I've collected over the years, and I need more fridge space in the garage to load it up. But you mentioned Solid Axle Summit, and with my side brand, I have the Yoda Filters Cup brand, the oil filter theme stuff, and I've been sponsoring Solid Axle Summit for probably 5 years or so. And I have to give a huge thank out to Casey Archer, Tim Archer, and Jimmy Johnson, and all the guys who really work double time to make that happen every year and keep the politics out and keep it fun and do a great job and really keep a great community and family organized event. It's fantastic. I mean, this will be the third year that my wife is coming with me, and that says a lot. If they build up an event where your wife wants to come with you, you're doing something right. I mean,
yeah,
you'll really thoroughly enjoy it.
my wife does not want to spend any time longer than absolutely needed in my 40. Had a bad experience night wheeling, and a 2 hour run ended up being a 7 hour run, and two flat tires. So she's like, "Yeah,
So
I'm
you're
not
saying
going."
rocks are sharp in Arizona?
Yes, one flat tire was an immediate sidewall slash, and it flattened my tire instantly. And one tire just kind of barely put a hole in the sidewall of it. And every time I would go around, the tire would go around and go, and and then
Don't worry.
every so often the unnamed brand would a guy in an unnamed brand, he would come back and air up my tire a little bit, and then go about another half a mile, and then he'd come back and air up my tire. Uh and that was like it was a lot bigger than it needed to be. And the vehicles on this night run, and I think they were thinking, hey, if we can get, I think it was a lot bigger than they wanted it to be, but it ended up having
Ooh.
like 70 something 40 vehicles. That would be awesome. And so they just shared it to all these different Facebook groups, and then like I said, like 70 vehicles showed up, and most of them were the other brand. And I bet now they're still saying, "Yeah, remember that?" Well, actually, I know they're still saying this, but because a guy that I work with was on that run, they're like, "Yeah, remember that time that we had to rescue the Land Cruiser because it had two flat tires and got hung up and high centered and I know they're saying that because this guy that I work with who went on that run still brings it up. He's like, "Yeah, you're too low and you got high centered," and I'm like, "What's like one of your fondest memories that you've had in your Land Cruiser?"
I would say the one that stands out the most is, you know, Texas is large and very difficult to get out of, and usually pretty miserable by the time you get out of there. And I have a friend who's local who had a place up in essentially Snowmass, Colorado. So first time I ever went
Okay.
wheeling. We had just finished. We had just finished over the summer putting the 5 speed in. Essentially, my transfer case was coming apart. It was overdue for everything. We got the 5 speed in. It was the first. I paid more for the 5 speed than I paid for my truck, and that was a big deal for me. But it refined it. It made it a lot better. Gave me low range again. Gave me a great first gear. So we drove the trucks. Well, I drove, but two friends, all my other friends, trailered, and I drove my 60 for the first time 1,000 miles up to Colorado. And I mean, I grew up a city boy. I now live in the country, so it's a lot better. But 2018, like we did an event where we were staying in pretty posh accommodations. We camped like one night, but I wheeled the truck through like some pretty difficult trails outside of Snowmass and outside of Vale essentially, and we really pushed it. And that I hit, first time wheeling, I broke a motor mount, was kicking the transfer case into neutral because the engine was moving so much that the shifter would physically hit the floorboard, kick it out. So, ratchet straps in two locations saved my day. One was ratchet strapping the transfer case lever against the passenger side door to keep it from popping out. And then that worked. Never came out of gear again. And another one was when I broke the motor mount, we ratchet strapped the motor mount down, and I drove for months like that. I made it back to Texas, and until I had the time to fix it, I just left it like that. But I everything was going really well, and I had the mechanical problem. So there was one trail where I just decided to park it, and I rode with my buddy in his 40, and it was good. But it kind of opened my eyes up to like what's outside of Texas and what kind of community and environment owning an old truck really brings you into. And these are people I still talk to on a daily basis, almost a decade later, and we still reminisce about that. A lot of the pictures that I have were taken from the 2018 and then the 2020 COVID cruise that we did, replicated it all. And in 2020, I got validation where we took a wrong trail turn, and I went through a trail that was I probably shouldn't have gone through. It was a dry creek bed with huge boulders, and that unlocked truck did work. And I got some of my best pictures of the truck flexed out, didn't disappoint, and it's just I feel like the as simple as the truck is, I feel like it has alternate personalities. I feel like when you get in the element in an old cruiser, it kind of just knows what to do. Like it may seem
Oh,
dumb on the road
absolutely.
and you may be upset about being slow, but in low range at about 3 miles an hour with the suspension flexed up, it just makes sense. And that was such an amazing feeling for me to realize that I finally brought it after 300,000 miles of being stock. I finally brought it where it deserved to be. And that felt like a rite of passage to me.
Yeah. Every time I've gone off road in my 40, I'm just like I amazed at how capable it was, uh, and how overbuilt it was from the 50s and or
Mm-hmm.
the 60s. Because here, my my 40 is a 69 FJ40, and I do stuff now, and other vehicles are like having a hard time getting over an obstacle or getting around an obstacle. And like you said it perfectly, that they have mixed personalities on the street. They're not very nimble, they're not very agile. I get it, dirt under its tires, and all of a sudden it's super nimble, super agile. I'm It's easier to steer on the sand and on dirt than it is on the highway. It's almost like I
Oh
have
yeah.
power steering on sand. It's like I have no power steering at all. Why? And it's just, yeah, off road is where they truly shine, and they're fantastic. Uh, so is there like a bucket list trip that you have for your 60?
And there is, and then I know its limitations. I really want to do Rubicon very badly. And I know Rubicon in a 60 is just going to be pain and panel damage, period. It's not the
Yeah,
right truck for it. Um, and it's funny because I've had this debate, because I have a 6940 that I've had since 2018, and I've really done nothing with it. It's a great truck. I hit a low point the other day where I was like, I should probably sell it. I'm never going to do anything with it. It's in fantastic shape, and I'm just like, to me, the 40 feels like a motorcycle where I live. It's a slight danger. It's really fun. You're not going to drive it in the rain. You just pray for the really good days. But if I was to do anything with it, I would love to just build it to go do Rubicon once and say that I did it. And then the logical way I feel to do Rubicon is sort of a buggy is like an 80 on 35s. I think would do it all day long, a little bit of armor. And you'd save your spine and your brain from complete damage. Um, so bucket list, realistically, money's no object. Get to build another truck, Rubicon. Um, Realistically, I would absolutely love to take my 60 all the way up to Alaska and drive it the whole way through BC, and just I think I could do that all day long. I mean, historically, I've put the mileage without failure on it and never had a problem, but I had to make some command decisions about it. So I've got some changes coming in the next year for the 60, and maybe I'll do it. Maybe I will. But the 2F's just begging and crying at this point, and it'll still do everything I want, and I'm meticulous about the maintenance, and the truck looks like it's been shot at, but I mean it runs fantastic. So could I do it? Would it be a bad idea? Those are two different things. Um, I
well,
mean, let's not involve logic in the discussion.
logic has no right being in a discussion with Land Cruisers. I mean, I'm sorry, but they're not the most logical vehicles at all. So
Man, I have had my 60 since 2015, and 90% of the time, that was my only vehicle. I've daily driven the 60 cross country, for wheeling, for work. I've done things that were way beyond the capability of it, and it felt logical because I stayed out of a payment for a decade, and that's a big deal. Um,
yeah,
and the fuel was high, and the maintenance could be a pain, but it it was perfectly logical. All I did was follow the instructions and listen to the people who knew what they were talking about. And I really try to give back a lot of that knowledge by, my dream job would be automotive journalist, and I'm not there. But I do try and document everything I do, the highs and the lows, on my mud thread that I've had since I bought the car in 2015. Um, Highs and lows I've documented, and I still have people asking me, "How did you do this? How did you deal with that?" A decade later, and that's really cool because I feel that some people only focus on the positives, and you have to focus on the negatives so other people can learn. You have to spread your
Yeah.
knowledge. You'd not be ashamed to say you failed or you had a near miss. And I like being that person. I mean, I'll be the first to say, like, I've dented the truck in really dumb ways. I've fallen in holes I probably shouldn't have. But if somebody else doesn't get hurt because of my mistakes, that's a good place to be.
Yeah. Um, and I my build thread on mud for my 40, um, I like you, I put the highs and the lows, and uh, this last time that my motor went down, everyone's like, oh, "You've had so much bad luck with that motor. Uh, I hope everything is going better for you, but oh man, that really sucks." And then when I have a triumph, I put it on my build thread, and uh, but yeah, I try to include the ups and the downs. And uh, yesterday on Instagram, I did a Ask Me Anything segment, and somebody goes, "Was buying a 40, looking back on it now, was buying a 40 worth it?" And I'm like, absolutely, 100%. There's nothing I've done in my 40 that I regret doing. Um, Even the breakdowns haven't been, I mean, they've been bad, but I'm like, a lot of people that I work with, they're just like, "Oh, I'd get rid of that truck by now." If that was me, I would have gotten rid of the truck the first time the motor went out. You just need to get rid of it. I'm like, no, absolutely not. It's my part of my personality now. So has your 60 kind of taken on your personality?
You know, um, I do field work for a living for engineering work, and it takes
Yeah,
me into bad situations with no outward answer that I have to solve every week. And I really think the 60 fits that vibe of being a very loyal field companion. And one of the people I really respect who has a similar build like that is Jim Godwin. I think very highly of Jim. He uses his truck for proper field work. It is a blunt force object, and I love that. I mean, he's chasing turtles in the middle of nowhere, and I mean, the truck is covered in mud and buried up to his axles, and that's just what it is. And he came down here and picked up some parts for his son, and I got to take him to dinner and chat with him, and I was just like, "You're doing exactly what I would love to be doing." Um, and I'm pretty scatterbrained at times, and I have a lot of thoughts on my mind and pretty chaotic inside my head. And although my 60 looks like death, it is a really good running truck that I'm not afraid to put a dent into, or hand the keys to somebody learning manual, or tell somebody go wheel it and use it as a benchmark standard. Like, this is how good it can be if you just follow the directions. There's literally nothing special about it. I've had people ask me like, "Oh, do you have VFI on it?" No, I have a carb. I have an ACE and carb. Like, I have nothing special, but I understand how all of it works, and that takes some time to gain the comfort for it. Um, to me, it's a tool. It's not a collectible. I don't view anything I have as a collectible, really. To me, all we're doing is spending money to create memories, and I want my memories as a middle-aged guy. I want it to be fun. I want to know that I did stuff and I explored, and it just wasn't about saving pennies here and there. That I did cool stuff.
yeah. Um, and I agree with that completely. A lot of times now I'll be out somewhere, and I'll see people like taking pictures of everything, and everyone's like, "Well, why don't you take any pictures right now?" I'm like, because one, the camera on my phone does nothing for justice, and two, I would rather just live in this moment and appreciate the moment right now instead of trying to get. Yeah, I do a lot of stuff on Instagram, but it's more about the experience in that moment than it is the Instagram reaction out of it. So
You know,
yeah, when
the
my
memories that are in my mind are what play back in my head. I have countless videos on my phone of going down icy trails and doing ridiculous stuff, and I can remember it just as vividly in my head as I can rewatching the videos. To see it firsthand
yeah,
is it doesn't do justice.
yeah, and I just yeah. So yeah, when my motor went down, I was like, you know what? I can have a pity party and just not participate in the ride, and or my son came with us and he had his 93 4Runner, and I'm just like, you know what? I'll ride passenger with him. Actually, I was riding in the back seat. His buddy came, and I had just as much fun, kind of backseat driving him through these trails as I would have driving them myself. And whenever we got to something, I'm like, hey, if you need a spotter, don't be afraid to ask. I'll get out and I'll be the spotter. And he uh, he got through everything, and then we get to all this really hard stuff, and then we get to these downward stair steps, and he's like, I can't drive through that. And so I got out and I kind of down it, and I was just like, dude, you handled that great. You did everything I asked you to do going down it. You picked the right, or you followed the line that I had mapped out for you, and it was awesome. And yeah, I got just as much enjoyment seeing him experience that as I would have doing it myself. Um, and there was actually two of us on that run who had uh, their one other guy had his daughter. She's 15. Uh, when we stopped to air down, she jumped out and got in the driver's seat, and she's like, "I'm driving the trail," and he's like, "Okay." And I asked him, I said, "So how did that feel having your daughter in the driver's seat, stealing it from you?" He's like, I didn't hate it as much as I thought I would. I actually really enjoyed it because she she was in an 80 series, and he's like, I had her going over the hardest obstacles, and she was handling it like she's done it before. And so it was it again, it's all about those experiences, and these vehicles are these old Land Cruisers are like a great conduit for these experiences to happen. Um, even some of the
Yeah,
bad
I can't
experiences.
imagine what I would be doing right now if I hadn't.
Yeah. Uh, so how often do you get approached in your 60 series by people who are like, "Hey, that your truck is really cool."
You know, I used to live in a big city with like 6 million people in Houston, and um, it's funny because I'd catch a lot of people taking pictures, but I never noticed, and it would always be my wife in the passenger seat saying, "Hey, some dude's taking a picture of your car, giving you thumbs up or something like that." But what really cracked me up is when I would travel for work, my wife would drive the car every day, and I got to handle it to her. She can handle the 60 really well. I mean, she's a tool with it. Like it works really well for her, and it would be funny because I get text message, "Hey, I saw some girl driving your truck," just not expecting that it would be her. Um, and now that I live in a small town, I went from 6 million to 17,000, and I don't get the same interaction. But then recently, I just got a wild hair, and I had to do some work in California, and I said, you know what? I'm gonna drive the 60. So I drove from Central Texas Hill Country to Los Angeles in the 60, and 2.5 days. Took it slow, and one of the funniest moments I had was, like I got a thrill from driving it in LA and going coast to coast, stuff like that. But I was in stop and go traffic on I-10, middle of nowhere. I don't know where. Probably Arizona, New Mexico border. And these two country boys pulled up to me in a truck and were like, "We don't mean to be weird, but how many miles do you have on that truck?" I was like, "Almost 400,000." And they were like, "We were guessing 300." That's the to quote them, like, "We're country boys, but we like Toyotas too." And they were in like some barely legal Chevy pickup truck. But the walks of life that it has interacted me with, I mean, I've seen. I think I think the only people who didn't acknowledge me is I was passing by a guy in Houston on the freeway, and he was in an Icon FJ40, and he just completely ignored me. And I thought, you know what? You forgot your roots. I have no pity for you.
Yeah. Um, Now this has become one of my favorite questions to ask people. But if you could have your 60 for any trail run and you could have anybody riding shotgun with you, who would you have ride shotgun in your 60 series?
Oh, I mean, the logical choice is my wife if she would tolerate it, but she loves. I mean, to me, it's peak to have the wife, the dog, having a good time. I'm gonna go back philosophically and go to something that can't happen, but I really wanted to take my dad before he passed away in the 60, and we never got a chance to. It just didn't work out. He was terrified to do trails, but the exception that I got to it, close as I can get to retribution, is I had to work up in San Francisco. Um, so I had to drive. I drove there. Just decided to took the wife's 200, borrowed it again, and took my dad with me. And after we got done with the job, we did like a dream road trip. Um, I was gonna go see George, and something didn't work out, so I took him. I took him through Yosemite, the Sequoias, Death Valley, went through Las Vegas, went past to the Grand Canyon, and just made a trip of it. And spending that time with my dad was about 6 months before he passed away, and he was telling. Also we stopped at Pikes Peak and drove the 200 up to Pikes Peak, and I gave damn near gave him a heart attack. We got to the top, and he was insisting that he was having a panic attack and he was going to fall off the top of the roof. And he was almost 90 at this point, and he was still in great health. And um, if I could have done that in the 60 plus, have taken him on a real trail, but to him, he he grew up in the mountains of Greece. He was used to heights, but never going 35 up a highway top of a mountain. If I could have got him in a trail in the 60, that would have been peak, but he probably would have murdered me, to be honest. So the 200
And
made a lot of positive impressions. He was very thoroughly impressed with it, and I mean, dreams versus reality, right? Like you take what you can get, and you make the memories while they're there. And I'm fortunate that my work allowed me to just hop in the car, go with my dad, and go make memories like that. Um, that's that's all we're doing, right?
yeah, there was one time where uh, this was kind of along those same lines. My dad never. It's kind of funny. My dad gets kind of panicked going off road, but I always remember that his greatest stories that he would tell me is in his old International Scout 2. He would be like, I don't ever want to hear about you doing this. But when I was younger, and then he would go on with his story. And there were always just these wild, outlandish experiences that he had, like paragliding behind his scout and knocking over uh, field goal posts. I'm like, but uh, and so there was one time after I bought my 40, I planned a run, and we were going along, and it was a pretty it was an easier trail, and I had very spotty cell signal going on the trail the whole time, and uh, we ended up playing an epic practical joke on my wife, which was ended up, in retrospect, to me, it was hilarious, but not to her, because she's like, "Do you
Most
have
wife
our
choice are
son?"
like that.
She's like, "Do you have our son?" I'm like, "No, just kidding." But the no text went through, but the just kidding did not. And then I didn't have cell signal for 4 hours. But as we
The
were
joke
going up
played
this,
you.
as we were going up this road to get to this overlooking saddle, and my dad's like, "Yeah, I'm gonna go take pictures of the vehicles coming up." I'm like, "Why?" He's like, "Uh, I'm just gonna take pictures of the vehicles coming up." And so he ended up walking up, and I'm like, "Why'd you walk?" He's like, "Because I was scared." So, uh, yeah, he's done all these. He's gone on a couple runs with me, and he's like, "Man, that's scary. How are you not afraid of doing that?" I'm like, "Because I know my truck can handle it. I know my truck will get up this road, and I know my truck will get back down, and it it's not it doesn't affect me." And so, but yeah, he was just like, "Yeah, I want to take pictures." So it's going to be interesting what he says and does in Uray, uh, on Engineer or Imogene or whatever trails we end up doing. Um, so that'll be interesting. Um,
What
so
you're going to find about Solid Axle that everything is really well planned and orchestrated, and I mean, for a first timer, I was nervous the first time I went for sure. It was very unplanned, and I didn't have my head on straight, and it all worked out. Um, Nothing will go wrong. They'll take care of you, and you'll be in like-minded people. If something breaks, you got 40 experts right there waiting to help you.
yeah, and I'm just excited about going and doing this. Um, yeah, this summer though, we're taking a trip up to Idaho for a family reunion, and I think I'm going to try to break the drive into 2 days to go up, and one of the 2 days or part of one day we're gonna be going through Salt Lake. So I'm like, you know what? You guys are gonna be coming to the Land Cruiser Museum with me. Like it or not, you're
You
coming
have
to
to.
the
You're
Land.
there. I was
uh,
randomly in Salt Lake City for work, and I thought, I got like an hour to burn. Called up a friend from Instagram, met him, went to the museum, and thoroughly enjoyed it. And it wasn't until I was there till I realized, oh, I can do this right now. So make the family wait. It'll be worth it.
yeah, and I've gone to the old location, but I still want to see the new location. So
New location's great, very well curated.
yeah, and yeah, and then I thought on the way back making a side trip out to Zion's and go through that tunnel where you come out of the tunnel and it's just like cars where Lightning McQueen and Sally come out of the tunnel and it's just that big expansive view and I'm just like, yeah, I kind of want to do that. Um,
This is
so
because we never stop being children.
you know what? You're absolutely right. I'm still kind of a kid at heart and the other day my wife was doing some homework for her master's program and I'm like, you know what? I'm gonna watch planes. So I watched a Disney movie.
As any
And
grown man should.
and yeah, and so and and I can't remember, I was talking to the AZ Cruiser on Instagram yesterday, and I'm like, dude, my whole desk at work is nothing but die-cast Toyota Land Cruisers. I still haven't grown out of the die-cast cars, and I'm 46, so it's like,
Dude, we're midlife. It's too late to change now.
yeah. Um, so statistically, these Land Cruisers are not fast, they're not flashy, but they always seem to turn heads, and us cruiser heads absolutely love them. Why do you think we love them so much?
You're driving an icon that resonates with people from all over, and I noticed something where I lived in the big city, and one year at Roundup, I had fallen in a ditch leaving the park and nearly rolled the truck. It was really bad. Bent the fender up, bent the door up, and I thought, it fits the vibe of the vehicle. So I remember going to a really fancy restaurant in Houston, and the the valets were all they ended up being all Salvadorians and Honduran guys, and I'll never forget the smile they got when they got to get in my truck with a bent door, and they parked it up front next to a G-Wagon and a Ferrari, and that 60 was parked right up next to them, and they could have parked it anywhere. They knew that it was cool, and they gave me front row parking, and I was just like, it makes people happy. Like, I'm enjoying it. Um, it may not be the most comfortable or logical vehicle at times, but I mean, anybody who can get a smile out of what I'm doing, I'm happy to help.
Yeah. And that's kind of one thing I've noticed about uh, the 40s and the 60s and the 55s, um, that you can get them out and get them dirty and they're perfectly at home and all this other stuff. But then you can park them right next to an exotic and they're still at home. Uh, People will still look at both cars almost equally as much. And it's just like, there's not many other cars that can kind of do that, where they kind of fit in both
No, truly
worlds,
not.
and they do it. Um, we're probably getting close to an hour, and so I'm going to ask like two more questions. What's on your Land Cruiser playlist? What do you listen to when you're driving your Land Cruiser?
Man, I end up always driving late nights, and it's usually heavy metal or some early 2000s electronic or a Tom Clancy book, imagining like I'm driving my 60 as a spy somewhere else in the world. It's always what it ends up being. And it's always the same few songs that get it. And there's a few songs that really like remind me of times and places and people and places that I went. And I can tie events back to songs and places. And honestly, like most of the time, I have the radio up because my window weather stripping leaks and the truck's loud. So it's a necessity.
Oh,
It's
oh,
drowning out the background noise in my head.
that, that's awesome. So, Alex, do you have any final thoughts for us?
Man, just try and help as many people as you can. You're doing a great service by spreading the word. Um, I'm always the first one to try and loan a hand or loan a truck out or help somebody make a trip. And there are consequences to it. I've felt the blows and I've been in the crosshairs for stuff that's gone wrong. But I do it all again. I mean, I think it's for a good group of people, and I've made lifelong friends, and I've converted people from Jeep people into Land Cruiser people, and um, I think we're really fortunate to know each other, and we're in a very good community of support. And I've made lifelong friends out of this, and I can't I can't say enough about the high quality people I've met. The people who like the guy who recommended me for this podcast didn't know him from anybody else in the world. Followed him on Instagram and made a really good friend out of him. And I have two kids from El Paso that are like brothers to me, Carlos
Yeah.
and my other buddy David, and didn't know them from anybody else. But they've come, met, stayed at the house. We'll go wheeling, we'll go do stuff, and I'll bend over backwards if they break. But I mean, I really only do that for people who give back. That's the biggest deal for me, is that you have to be a selfless individual. You wall yourself off, you put yourself in an ivory tower. Maybe you're not for everybody.
Yeah. Well, Alex, it was awesome talking to you. Hearing the stories that you had to share. So thanks for coming on to the podcast, and I can't wait to sit by a campfire up in Ouray and talk more stories with you this summer.
I'll shake your hand. I'll see you then. The whole family will be up there, and we're gonna have a good time as always.
All right, we'll talk to you later.
Thank you very much. Bye bye.
All right, bye.
Thanks for listening to this episode of the Classic Land Cruisers podcast. As always, remember to go to reefmonkey.com to get your Classic Land Cruiser podcast merch. Bring your adventure home with inlowgear.com, your source for custom Land Cruiser apparel and merchandise, where adventure becomes art, designed for the road. Again, this episode was brought to you in part by Redline Land Cruisers, Save Your F, by Manafree, your one-stop shop for Land Cruiser parts and service, by Valley Hybrids and Terrain Tamer North America. As for me, the mountains are calling and I must go.